Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again it is Sunday, and that means it's time for the Texas Gun Vault Poll Question of the Week, a weekly vlog that I put out where I ask you, as my viewers and subscribers, about something that deals with guns, gun culture, politics, current events, the news, or something fun like EDC that I want to get your thoughts and opinions on. And this week's question, I think, deals with the march of time. Yeah, it's almost the end of the year. Right now, as I'm filming this, it is almost 2023. Right now, we are in mid-December. And of course, at this time of year, we're always thinking about the future and reflecting upon the past. I also know that I'm at a time in my life where I'm beginning to have my existential crisis. I'm 42 years old. You know, I realize I might not have as many days ahead as I do behind. And have I made an impact on this world? Am I going to leave it a better place than the way that I found it? Well, I sure hope so. But I am more aware today of the passage of time than I ever have been. And also I can look back and reflect on how things have changed just in my short life. Yeah, 42 might not seem as old to some people. I know that when my grandmother passed away, she was 96 years old. And she was sharp as a tack when I spoke with her all the way up until the very end. And I used to sit down and ask her, you have seen essentially horse and buggies all the way to man landing on the moon. What is the greatest thing you ever saw? And she said, the internet. Yeah, something that she could not even imagine. For most of her life, it was the most amazing invention she could think of. And that got me thinking about firearms. I also know that for a lot of us, our perspective of history begins from the day we are born. And that means a lot of us take a look at what is out there today as the way it's always been. We always have a little bit of nostalgia. So for example, I know that many people that watch my channel absolutely love 1911s. And that's because when it came to semi-automatic pistols, they grew up on 1911s. But think about the generation today, the people that maybe 30 or 40 years from now who are being born today, they're not going to have that same influence of the 1911. And that can be for a number of different reasons. Number one, there are so many other guns out there that they're going to be familiar with. And maybe they're not going to be part of a military that carries a 1911 in their formidable years. So as time marches on, the 1911 that everybody venerates will almost be forgotten. But right now, everyone's like, it is the greatest gun that has ever been invented. And I understand the pros and cons of that argument. But time marches on. So what do you guys think is going to happen to the world of firearms in the future? Maybe in the short term, mid-term, or even the long term. What is firearms technology going to look like 100 years from now? A lot of times we like to think that we know it all. But think about it. Back in 1922, 100 years ago, could they have imagined polymer striker-fired Wonder 9s that we have today? Well, probably not. So I wanted to ask what you guys think the future of firearms tech might look like. And so with that long introduction, let's dive right in to this week's poll question. As the 2022 calendar is coming to a close, I know many of us begin to think about what the future may hold for ourselves in the next year. This got me wondering about the future of firearms in the medium and long term. While there might not be anything groundbreaking on the horizon that will revolutionize the firearms world, we all know eventually something will be produced that evolves firearms to the next level. Many of these technologies, if they currently exist in any form, are either in their infancy, unreliable, or political non-starters. But for those that have thought about the future of firearms technologies, what do you think will be the next major evolutionary step and advancement? And you know, this can be a double-edged sword. There's always companies that are looking to innovate, and they come to market with something that is very different, very groundbreaking. And because it is such a departure from what we've had in the past, it kind of fizzles. Man, as human beings, we sure like to hold on to the old standards, things that we know, things that we believe in, and so many things in our life, from government all the way down to our monetary system and even our firearms, is all faith-based. It's not that they are the best option, it's just what we know and what has worked in the past. I'll give you guys another example. My father loves automotive racing, and he likes to watch old races from the past. Now, him and I have restored a 1969 Camaro. It is an awesome and beautiful car. So I have always been fascinated with American muscle cars, and he was watching an old race from the 1960s, and the announcers of this race were talking about how those cars weren't made like the ones that they used to know, like the ones from the 30s. It always seems to be that way. Today we go, they don't make cars like they used to, and so forth, because it's not what we grew up on. But today we would look back and go, you know, cars made in the 60s for the technology and the time were made with pride, and they were well built. But in the 1960s, the people that grew up on cars from the 1930s said the 1960s cars were pieces of junk. And I kind of see this in the firearms world. So while many of us may not want to adopt new technologies because, as I said, they seem to be unreliable or political hot potatoes, it doesn't mean that 50, 60, or 100 years from now, these aren't going to be standard fare. So, with all that, let's see what you guys thought with this week's results. With only 449 votes as of me filming this video, we have caseless ammunition, lighter and eliminates ejection issues, 34%. Electronic fire control units, more accurate and reliable, 16%. Smart gun technology will finally be reliable and practical, 7%. Nothing will change. We have reached peak gun technology, 32%. And something else, explain in the comments, 11%. Now, once again, realize that YouTube only gives me 5 options. If I could put 10, 15, or 20 options down, I definitely would. But I came up with what I think are the most probable, the things that I hear about gun companies working on. And one of them I knew was going to be very politically contentious, and that is the smart gun technology, because of all of the mandates that some municipalities and states have on smart gun technology. And of course, we don't want that, so we resist that, not just because that technology right now is unreliable, but because we don't want to strip our fellow Americans of their Second Amendment options just because of government mandates. But we're going to take the politics out of this. But let's go through each one of these and I'll give you guys my personal thoughts and opinions. First, we have caseless ammunition, lighter and eliminates ejection issues. Now, I know this is not necessarily the latest and greatest technology that many companies like HK have developed this and worked on it in the past, like with the HK11. The idea of not needing a case for ammunition is really cool, to think that you don't have all that spent brass. However, when it comes to the chemical technology of making caseless ammunition that is durable, has just not come to fruition. Will it ever? Well, maybe. I know this is one of those things that has been on the chopping block for a lot of companies. They're like, we have got to figure out how to make this work. And I honestly think that one day they will. With the cost of brass and metals and the reloading components, I understand why a lot of companies really would like to eliminate some of those components to make ammunition cheaper and more available. I can see where this is probably going to be something that happens in the next 75 to 100 years. It will probably be standardized by then. I don't see this happening anytime soon. It's just because so much of our firearms technology is built around a brass-cased cartridge. Then we have electronic fire control units, more accurate and reliable. Now, this is actually the one that I would have voted for. You know, in general, I am not a big fan of electronics when it comes to firearms, but I think that has to do with my personal biases. I sure like things that are mechanical. They seem to be better, and I can trust them more. Going back to that argument I was talking about when it came to faith in firearms. However, technology is always advancing. I remember when red dots came out on semi-automatic pistols. They were pretty cool, but there was a lot of problem with flickering and having problems with the electronics. But as time has gone on, now almost everybody wants a red dot on their pistol and their standard fare. When they first came out, nobody trusted them. And now everyone wants one. It's just the march of time. And I honestly think that when it comes to firearms technology, having more electronics is actually going to be the wave of the future. It's going to make trigger pulls where you have kind of a shoot-by-wire system, like in airplanes today, we have a fly-by-wire system. You don't actually adjust the hydraulics with a lever. You simply push a button that actuates the machine that adjusts the hydraulics in the plane. Fly-by-wire, where I think we are going to be shooting by wire. Eventually, we're going to have fire control groups where we will be able to be more accurate. We'll be able to have a very consistent trigger pull. We won't have to worry about the mechanics. I think it's just kind of the wave of the future, as I mentioned, just like electric cars are starting to take over internal combustion engine cars. That was unfathomable 30 years ago. But look where we are with companies like Tesla. I see Teslas all over the place. And I'm sure glad I do, because I own stock in Tesla. I do think it is the wave of the future. Then we have smart gun technology will finally be reliable and practical. I actually think of everything on this list, this is the most likely to be seen. However, because I mentioned the nature of that political football of smart guns, we're just not going to see them implemented. If it wasn't for those mandates and politicians didn't care about smart gun technology so much, I actually think we'd probably have many on the market already. I wouldn't mind a futuristic gun. I think one of the James Bond movies had an HK-VP9 that was a smart gun. I have nothing against it. My only issue is the mandating of it. And this is where politicians kind of shoot themselves in the foot. Well, pun intended, when it comes to their laws. Because they passed those laws, that means that smart gun technology is always going to be slow to develop. But I actually see the upside to it. And as technology gets better, I think it is a great option if that is the way that you want to go. I still think you should be able to own old style guns that are all mechanical. It should not be mandated. But smart gun technology, I think, would be really cool to see. Then we have nothing will change. We have reached peak gun technology. And this got the second number of votes, and I honestly think this has to do with a lot of people that look back on the past with nostalgia and go, the 1911 is the greatest gun that's ever been made. And yes, it is a fantastic gun, but that gun is 111 years old. It's great. It has stood the test of time, but it is not peak gun technology. I honestly think John Browning would be saddened to think that his inventions were considered the greatest of all time. It never gets any better. He was all about advancement, and I think he knew that after his passing and his legacy, things would continue to advance, and that's what he would want, because guns need to get better all the time. So I don't agree with this sentiment, but I understand why people do, because it's what they're familiar with and they want to hold on to the past. But as those people pass away and a new generation develops, they're not going to hold on to guns like the 1911 or revolvers. They're going to move on to other things just because it's a generational thing. Then we have something else explained in the comments, and that got a whopping 11%, more than usual. And that's just because people had other ideas and options that I just couldn't list because YouTube only gives me 5 options. So with all that said, and now you know my thoughts, let's see what you guys had to say with this week's top-rated comments. And with the top-rated comment of the week, we have Joey Phillips 1181, who says, self-ranging and zeroing optics so you don't have to do holdovers would be awesome. You know, I have heard about this type of experimental technology. It's really cool. But once again, we're going back into the electronics of firearms. Yeah, optics are one of those things that are going to be huge game changers. They already are now, because even the cheapest optics that we have today are way better than the best optics they had 50 years ago. So this is something I definitely could see. I don't know how it would work. You'd probably have to tie in the firearm to a computer system that could see the target downrange, but who knows? Maybe one day there's going to be an app on your phone for that. Then we have Ray Bells 9462, who said, I really believe polymer cased ammo is the next step in firearms technology, and it's already here. Just need more adoption. And yeah, that could be the thing. However, I think that polymer ammo, well, you're going to have a lot of pushback from environmentalists. I could see a problem with that, unless they could come up with some type of biodegradable polymer ammo. You see, at least when it comes to the metal, it doesn't poison the ground, and you can use a metal detector to find it, and it's easier to clean up. But right now we have a huge plastic issue when it comes to our oceans. So I see a lot of pushback on that, but I understand how that would make ammunition a lot lighter. Then we have Toby B96, who said, I think electricity powered guns are maybe down the line. There's prototypes out now, but are so big and heavy for such a low power projectile it isn't worth it at all. But maybe eventually it could be worth it. And what I think he's talking about here are those new rail guns, the guns that use magnets to push a projectile through the barrel and down range. And just trying to get that technology to work with all the different magnets, it's kind of hard. But I'm sure it will probably be something of the future. I know that the military has tested gigantic railguns that have propelled projectiles at many, many times the speed of sound. So I know it does exist, and if they can just miniaturize that, that might be the future of firearms tech. Then we have Sun1491, who said, I'd like to get my hands on one of those plasma rifles that NASA gives the Marines on those secret Black Project space missions, or one of those cool space rocket launchers I've heard about. Yeah, I don't know if energy weapons are in the future, but who knows? I know he's just being facetious and joking here, but yeah, who knows? Maybe one day we will have plasma rifles and other things that use energy beams or lasers instead of actual physical projectiles. And then finally we have Joe Morgan Eat My Shorts channel, who said, think materials and methods will change more than anything, such as the stuff with printed parts. They seem to be advancing that tech pretty fast. Oh yeah, and he brings up a great point. 3D printed firearms, 3D printed parts. I know that there are major firearms companies right now making 3D silencers, 3D printed silencers. That's amazing. I don't even know where to begin on that. Yeah, the technology is just going to continue to advance. And there's going to be that one camp that's going to hold on to the past, and there's going to be that one camp that looks forward to the future. And it's probably just going to be a generational thing. And I think we're all guilty of it. We all look at what we began on and what we are familiar with and say, that was the best. It doesn't get any better than that. I know guys, as I said, that love the 1911 and hate the Beretta 92 or the M9. But I know there's many veterans today that shot the M9 and absolutely love the M9 and say it is the greatest pistol that has ever been fielded by the US military, and the M17 sucks. But now we have new soldiers today that all they're going to know is the M17. They're not going to know the 1911 and the M9. And 50 years from now, the M17 is the greatest pistol that's ever been invented. You just have to look at it through people's perspective of when they were born and when they live. So, what does the future of firearms tech hold? I have no idea, but I know something's coming, and I sure wish I had a time machine to look far into the future and see what it looks like, because I want to know everything. But right now, everything is just speculation and guessing. So that is the Texas Gun Vault poll question of the week. If you would like to participate in next week's poll, please go to the community tab of my YouTube channel. I will also post a link in the description below. Go over there, see what the poll is about, vote, comment, and like other people's comments so we can get the top rated comments of the week. And thank you all for allowing me to come to you with these discussions every Sunday. I absolutely love interacting with all of you. It is so special. In fact, as I'm filming this, the day that I'm filming this video, I hit 40,000 subscribers. So my channel is growing. I am honored and humbled. So thank you all for being here. So once again, this is the Texas Gun Vault poll question of the week, and thanks for always participating and voting. It's awesome. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.